let's proceed with the section 7, that's related to the model-based system engineering approach in implantable artificial kidney development. Just as you noticed from that course, we cover different topics in that regard that can be applied in the implantable kidney technology development. So we require the development of the MEMS technology, we require the development of digital twins technology. Digital twins on their own, they demand the machine learning and the AI application to make sure that there is the robust feedback between the physical counterpart and the digital twin representation of that object. That means that there should be a software engineer, there should be the mathematical modeling, there should be the hardware development such as sensors, MEMS technologies, etc. and so on. So on the one hand, on the brief look, it seems like the implantable kidney technology does not look that complicated, but at the same time, when we talk about the application in the medicine, we require the efforts of many different specialists from many fields who can cover all the topics and all the issues that can occur during the implantable artificial kidney development. And basically, this is what model-based system engineering is needed for, to organize the development and manufacturing process, and to organize the interaction between different specialists who are very familiar with the field of expertise, but basically they need a proper interaction with other specialists to make sure that they talk on the same language, to put it briefly. So it's a speaking of model-based system engineering, it's a formalized application of the modeling to support system requirements, design, analysis, verification, and validation, and other activities in the concept design phase, and that should be continuing throughout the development and later life cycle phases. So if we just address why exactly we need the system engineering in case of wearable artificial kidney, basically if we talk about very complex items like the same wearable artificial kidney or implantable artificial kidney, we actually require a lot of different parts that should be incorporated in the form of one system that should provide an adequate result, like the adequate filtration flow, the adequate blood clearance, etc., and so on. And in case of implantable artificial kidney, it's not just we need to understand how to train a specific microfluidic system that will imitate the blood filtration processes that take place in the human nephron. We also need to provide the specific filtration materials that will, in a sense, provide an adequate filtration of the uric toxins and water removal. At the same time, if we talk about the system that will directly interact with blood, and this is a very huge issue, we need to consider the option how to prevent the blood clotting. For instance, the same issue will occur in the artificial heart, where we have the direct interaction with blood. That means that we need to develop strategies that require that basically provide an anti-clotting mechanism, and that's what we cover in the tutorial 2 tomorrow. So at the same time, we want to incorporate the digital twin technology, and digital twin technology is a very sophisticated topic on its own, as we just found out in the previous lection. So it's just a lot of mathematical modeling, it's a lot of machine learning, it requires mathematics, programmers, AI specialists, just to make sure that we provide an adequate digital twin, a robust digital twin that has a reliable feedback loop with the digital twin. And we should not forget that we create a medical device that should be applied for renal replacement therapy. That means that we need professional neurologists who can actually provide a decent feedback if we do the right thing, because we make a medical application device, and from the medical standpoint, we are not a specialist to evaluate the adequacy of the equipment that we provide for the healthcare. And for that reason, there should be a feedback between engineers and doctors who are actually specialists in that field to make sure that the system we provide is actually healthy, is actually safe for a patient, and it can actually provide a proper treatment. So in that case, we require the interaction between different types of specialists who will, that's just the digital twin thing, that will participate in the development of a very complicated object. In our case, it's implantable kidney. And implantable kidney actually goes to, let's say, from hard to very hard technology, because it requires a lot of different parts that require the involvement of different specialists, like the material science specialists, the physics, the chemistry, the MEMS technology, the AI specialist, etc., and so on. So why is it essential to create a model-based system engineering in case of implantable kidney? Just I explained in the previous slide, we require a lot of different parts that require on their own merit the involvement of different specialists from the different backgrounds, like the creating of sensors, for instance, sensors that can evaluate the ultrafiltration flow. There could be sensors that evaluate the clearance of urinic toxins like urea and creatinine, because we need to evaluate how effectively we remove nitrogen-bound toxins from the human organism. Otherwise, if we just filter, we do not provide enough clearance for that. That means that the system does not provide a proper therapy that is required. Material science includes the development of the same materials for the parts like the microfluidic system. And just like I said, there is a very huge issue with the blood clotting in case of the implantable artificial kidney, because unlike the variable artificial kidney, even in case of variable artificial kidney technology, we have basically the apparatuses like variable artificial kidney is developed specifically for hemodialysis, and we have the mass exchange unit that interacts directly with the blood. So in case of implantable artificial kidney, it's even more complicated issue, because if in variable artificial kidney we have a replaceable mass exchange unit that we used one time and then we just replace it with a fresh one, in terms of implantable artificial kidney, we have to develop a long-term blood filtration system that will constantly interact with the human blood. And for that purpose, we need a brand new material that will prevent the thrombosis on a very long run. That means that we need an involvement of material science specialists who can choose the proper material or develop a proper material that will prevent the blood clotting on a very long run without any complications for a patient. Of course, we're talking about the MEMS technologies. Right now, at the current stage, there is no way around. We can imitate the blood filtration process within the artificial kidney, implantable artificial kidney apparatus, but without involving a microfluidic systems. And microfluidic system requires a specialist who can modulate the processes that take place inside of this microchip, and they can develop the proper design of the microchip that on the one hand will imitate the blood filtration process at the very first stage of this of the renal replacement therapy, and they can develop the imitation of the proximal convoluted tubule in case of the reabsorption of water, reabsorption of the substrates, etc., and so on. If we talk about let's say the biotechnology, for instance, as we said previously, we could basically develop implantable artificial kidney in the sense that we do not use any biotechnology. That means that we have to heavily rely on the MEMS technology, and we somehow need to imitate the proximal convoluted tubule without introducing the biotechnologies. But in case if we talk about, for instance, the implantable artificial kidneys that actually use the cell cultures that provide this reabsorption, that means that you need a the specialist from biotechnology field that can actually provide the proper method for the culture, the cell culture growth, who can actually provide a better MEMS technology design, because as we covered that previously when we talk about the bioartificial kidney, and when we talk about these systems where we introduce the specific cell culture that basically reabsorbs the essential solutes and nutrients back to the human blood. That means that we need to prevent the immune response from the human organism to this blood, to this cell culture, to make sure that this biotechnology will work properly. That means that there should be interaction between MEMS technology specialists and biotechnologists, so they can actually make a proper solution to prevent this immune reaction to happen. And as we covered previously, one of the strategies that we can use to actually observe the behavior of the implantable kidney within the human organism is the introduction of digital twin. And digital twin itself is a very complicated technology because it requires a lot of mathematical modules. It requires a very robust AI technologies and machine learning that actually should provide a very robust interaction between the physical counterpart and its digital twin. And what's not mentioned here is, of course, the doctors, because the nephrologist and the specialist will actually possess a necessary knowledge about how the human kidney functions. Because after all, when we talk the implantable artificial kidney, but it's a total artificial kidney that requires a heavy MEMS technology cleaning. But if we do not use the biotechnologies, that means that we have to develop a specific MEMS technology that will provide the proximal convoluted tubule imitation. Or if it requires the biotechnology, it does not matter. If we develop the implantable artificial kidney, we need to consult specialists with the nephrologist and the rhinologist who actually possess the adequate knowledge about the function of the human kidney, how the chronic disease failure affects the human organism, how the nephron works as the structural unit of the kidney, etc., and so on. Because the core idea of the implantable artificial kidney, as I mentioned it previously, is basically an attempt to imitate the natural nephron. So in some literature you can even see the mention of artificial nephron as the terminology for implantable artificial kidney, because that's the idea behind this technology. Yeah, this is just a very short list of the specialists that are required for successful development of the implantable artificial kidneys. It's the system engineers who will actually provide the whole manufacturing process of the implantable kidney development. It's a programmers and AI specialists, as we mentioned. We cannot do anything with digital twin without those types of specialists. So we require a lot of programmers and AI specialists who can provide a better outlook of how can we actually provide a robust machine learning in that case. nephrologist, of course, and I think that we should put him even in the first place, because if we provide the concept of an artificial kidney and we need to validate this idea is actually good enough and it will work in a real renal replacement therapy scenario, that means that we need to validate this idea with actual specialists who work in the field of the chronic kidney disease. Of course, if we talk about the development of the software or digital twins or machine learners, we require the mathematicians who will provide the adequate modeling of the processes that take place in the natural nephron or the MEMS technology that we introduce. The MEMS engineers, of course, because the MEMS technology is the essential part of the implantable artificial kidney. It does not matter if we use biotechnology or not. We cannot imitate the nephron in the smaller sense by using just traditional or conventional membranes that we use in hemodialysis. I actually wish that I took some examples of the dialyzer from my laboratory, because usually it's a very huge cylinder, and even if we talk about the mass exchange units that are used for hemodialysis for kids, it's usually a cylinder that is that big, and just imagine that we use that part of equipment in terms of implantable system. So basically, if we're talking about the imitation of the nephron, we need to create a miniaturized version of the dialysis, a microdialyzer that is possible by creating the MEMS technologies, and material scientists actually provide the type of membranes that can make the microdialyzer possible, because in that case we need to develop some sort of a brand new material that provides a better filtration in case when we just use heart as the natural pump for blood recirculation through the implantable kidney. And if we're talking about the when we talk about the total implantable artificial kidney without using biotechnologies. But in case if we make it even more complicated, that means that we need biotechnologists and biologists who can provide a better outlook what kind of cell cultures we need to grow, what kind of cell cultures can provide the proper reabsorption of water and nutrients, etc. and so on. So usually model-based system engineering approach is constructed of the same of the following processes. So we create a geometric module of the implantable kidney, and we provide the model for the physical processes that will take place within this apparatus, and how this apparatus will affect the parameters of patient's blood that we need to treat, what kind of clearance we can achieve in a set implantable artificial kidney. So physical module actually provides us a better outlook of what processes we should take into consideration, what parameters can be affected, how exactly they will be affected. That basically something very close to what we discussed in the first tutorial, but in case of the entire implantable kidney. Then we construct the behavioral module of the system, and then there is a construction of model based on rules. So if we go towards the implantable artificial kidney, there should be options that should be considered during the process of the development of the kidney, and that's actually involves the strategy of the model-based system engineering. So first and foremost, we have to study the kidney's functions, because we need to understand what exactly we are trying to imitate with total implantable artificial kidney. That means that we require a lot of the feedback from the nephrologists. That means that there should be a discussion with the nephrologist and urologist and experts in academic field that will provide a better understanding of this kidney functions. And with better understanding, engineers can provide a dynamics, fluid-related dynamic study from the MEMS technology that should be incorporated in the total implantable artificial kidney. There should be iterative study if we need to make this model more robust and more accurate in case of the macrofluidic concept adoption and design structure. Then when we talk about the prototyping of the system, if we provided a good outlook of how this microfluidic system should work, then we go to the development of the specific parts of the system. That means that we need to create a microfluidic hemofilter that basically imitates the glomer filtration function. That means that we need the ultrafilter that will provide the initial blood filtration in the system. Then we create a system that imitates the convoluted tubal, proximal convoluted tubal, and that goes to the next stage of modeling and simulation of the system, integration of AI control and monitoring of the efficiency of the system. And if we talk about the development, when we actually provide the working prototype, that means that we can start the development of the digital twin, because in the case of digital twin, we actually, basically at some point of the development, we can consider the creating of digital twins for different components of this particular system. For instance, we can develop a digital twin for hemofilter of the imitation of proximal convoluted tubal. But in that particular case, when we create a working prototype and when we integrate the AI control systems, we can talk about the development of the actual digital artificial twin that can be used in further validation and production of the implantable artificial kidney technology. So that's basically the design steps that can be used in model-based system engineering, that basically incorporates the ideas of the kidney function in the system. Then when we have a good outlook of how exactly the nephron works, we incorporate this knowledge in the microfluidic system design. That goes for the further design and simulation, with the acquiring of the adequate mathematical module of the blood filtration in the present microfluidic system. That goes to the optimization of the provided system. Then in order to create a digital twin, we need to acquire behavioral and rule-based model development that will be incorporated in digital twin. Since we need to acquire a proper feedback between digital twin and physical counterpart, that means that we need to use machine learning that will actually improve the robustness of the feedback that we establish between the physical object and the digital twin. That means that we need additional specialists that will provide the further verification and validation of that system. And after that, it goes to the fabrication cycle, and basically we can emphasize that digital twin can be used here in the fabrication cycle during the full cycle of the development. That was rather a very short presentation, considering that it's basically the idea of how we can use the model-based system engineering approach. And the main idea here that I wanted to present is when we talk about the development of such difficult technology as the implantable artificial kidney, we basically need an approach that helps us to acquire, first of all, the specialists that are required for development of that technology. That means because we pick the specialists from the different areas of expertise, we need to make sure that there is a proper collaboration and proper data analysis of the acquired data, and to make sure that specific specialists are not just trapped in the bubble and they just develop one thing without understanding the whole picture of the process. And for that we require model-based system engineering that acquires this data, it organizes this data, and actually provides a better outlook of what steps we should take in order to create an implantable artificial kidney. Yeah, that was rather short and very watery lecture in comparison with the previous lections from the first 2 days. But nevertheless, if you have any questions, I will be glad to answer that.
So digital twins works as like a nephron. Digital twin works as a nephron.
Yeah, digital twin will be basically a twin of the physical implantable artificial kidney.
So digital twin not work like a nephron, means filtering all the blood as well as urine part in a human body. Blood and here the process
No, digital twin basically a digital representation of the
means filtration process and reabsorption process. These all processes are working like a nephron. So here digital twins works as a nephron part or what, sir?
We are creating implantable artificial kidney with keeping in mind that this technology has to imitate the native nephron of a human organism. That means that we're creating a system that imitates that nephron, and digital twin is basically a digital representation, a digital copy of the physical counterpart. In our case, it's a implantable artificial kidney. And there should be a feedback loop, like the bidirectional feedback between the digital twin and the implantable artificial kidney.
Okay, so all diseases can be predicted by this digital twin?
Yeah,
all
digital twin basically has to provide the online monitoring of the ultrafiltration flow, for instance, or the uremic toxin clearance. At the same time, it should predict the possible malfunctions or possible breakdowns that can happen within the implantable artificial kidney. So basically, digital twin in that case have multiple functions. It's the online observance or survey of how the implantable kidney works, and that's a time-scaled monitoring.
Okay, both are paired, kidney on chip and digital twins both are connecting, both are sending the data and
well, if we want a connection between the physical object and digital twin, we have to provide a number of sensors that actually collect data from the physical object and transfer this data to the digital twin.
Sir, which sensors we have to use?
Well, in case of for instance, if we talk about urea clearance, that means that we need the sensor of urea or any nitrogen-bound toxin. For instance, if we monitor the glucose level, that means we need a blood glucose sensor and the glucose sensor inside of the, for instance, microfluidic system that imitates the proximal convoluted tubule. So we compare the glucose level in blood and the glucose level in the end product of the blood filtration. We require blood pressure sensor, the different tensors that actually evaluate the transmembrane pressure that we create inside of the microfluidic system. It could be a huge variety of different sensors that should provide us the data about the clearance of the filtration flow and the robustness of microfluidic chips.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the informative talk. Sir, I would like to ask, what are the things that we need to consider while designing a hemofiltration membrane for implantable artificial kidney device to make it last for a long period of time? Because once the implanted artificial kidney device is implanted, then I think it will be difficult for a physician to operate on a patient again and again to change the filtration membrane. So what should we do?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question, because there are multiple issues that will occur during the way when we implant this system inside of a patient. First and foremost, of course, it's a robustness of this microchip and the robustness of membrane that we use, because there is a transmembrane pressure that will be created inside of the chip. Another big issue will be the thrombosis formation. So first and foremost, we have to consider that it's a part of the system that directly interacts with the human blood. And to make sure there is no thrombosis formation, we have to consider the protective film inside of this microchannel that prevents the formation of thrombosis. We need to consider the robustness of the membrane that can withstand the set transmembrane pressure. So we need to take into consideration what pressure we create inside of this microfluid chip, and we need to consider the membrane material that can withstand this pressure in the long run. Of course, considering the position of the patient, we have to consider the material science of the microchip material that we made, to make sure it will not break down inside of the human organism. So basically the main points of concern is the robustness of the membrane and the thrombosis formation, and I will try to cover the thrombosis issue during the second tutorial. Yeah, hopefully that.
Thank you, sir.
My question is regarding this model-based approach. I think a similar approach is also used in software engineering to develop big softwares. Different experts work on various models. So whether in this approach to develop an artificial kidney, the experts, they work on different models at various levels, and then it is integrated at the higher hierarchy, or they work on the same model. And one more question is, if they are working on multiple models, then it is integrated in the further stage. There might be compatibility issues, because different experts may have developed different models with their inputs. So how this compatibility issue arises is tackled.
Yeah, that's a very good question, of course, because in that regard we have actually specialists from very distant fields like the MEMS technology, or it could be a biotechnology. So yeah, there should be like a database that actually considers the development stages for any specific group, and there should be a easy access to the data, so specialists from different branches can access the data from the other development cycle to make sure that there is a proper interaction, and there should be a feedback between the specialists in regards to what has to be done from different groups to create a single part of the system. So since like model-based system engineering is not exactly my field of expertise, how I see this problem is the constant feedback in a form like of one documentation that basically, in that case, the digital documentation that provides the whole view of the project and some small projects within this whole system in particular, so any specialist can access a side project and see what other specialists are doing in the other field, and what has to be done to make sure that there is no misunderstanding between those specialists, so they just do two different things that cannot be combined together. So yeah, as far as I remember, in the traditional system engineering, there is actually a lot of documentations that are stored in a physical form. And in the model-based system engineering, there is actually a specific software that combines all this documentation in the digital form and combines like the links between different parts of the projects. So it makes it easier to access the specific parts of the project, so the different specialists will have actually some sort of a basic knowledge what other specialists do. So that just to reassure that all specialists go in one direction.
Basically, a database would be there, central database would be there.
Yeah, I think it will be in a form like of a centralized database, and the main connection between them.